Okay. The streaming is live now. Okay, seems Pradesh has some issues. Anyway, let's kick off today's meeting. I'm now sharing the screen. Just a moment. Here's my screen.
Yes, see.
Yeah, thanks, Mani. Okay. Yeah, let's get started. Here is today's agenda. We have several things to discuss. The first is about org maintenance status update. The second one is related to notation V1.1 release. Payment has some updates. Then it is also Payment's topic to discuss the versioning strategy for Notary project website and documentation. Then Pritesh has one topic of release notation plugin framework Go, version 1. The last one is my ask for maintainers to review the plan for Notary project 1.2.0 release. Okay, let's start from the first one. For the org maintainers status, so currently, if you are aware that Steve Lasker, he created an issue to step down. Let me show you the issue. Yeah, so Steve is previously, sorry, anyone speaking?
No, I said it is 66.
Okay. Yeah, Steve filed this issue to step down. And as we discussed previously, and we also expect Justin Goma can file issue to step down as org maintainer. So we will have some time waiting for him to file the issue. And my proposal is that if he did not do that in upcoming 2 days, I think we can give 2 more days. That means by end of this month. So if he does not file the issue to step down, I think I will create an issue for him. This is one step we are going to take. Another thing is that as Steve and Justin will step down, so we need 2 more org maintainers. As we discussed previously, we need a minimal 6 org maintainers. So I think Wani and Samuel has some follow-up actions to discuss this from AWS side. So any updates from Wani?
I have to collect the metrics, how many CRs and the things that I have been participating from 2022 till now, which is what I have to give it to Pratesh so that he can go ahead and create the issue. I'm working on it.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. That is about the nomination for Wani. And from our side, I think from Microsoft side, I think Freeman will create a nomination issue accordingly. And another follow-up item for Wani is that, as you know, that David, let me scroll down a little bit. David created this issue to nominate James, and we discussed that we think based on current notary project governance documents, only the sub-project maintainer are qualified for org maintainers. So the proposal in this issue, there are two options, and we can discuss under this issue, and we think that we can that James will start contributing in Notary project community. He already joined several meetings on Thursday, and he will also have some proposals related to the attestations and other work. So we think one of the proposal is that James can start the contribution, and later we can nominate him as one of the sub-project maintainer. Then in 6 months, we can review the statistics, and we can revisit the nomination for nominate James as the org maintainer. So, for this issue, we expect that Wani or other maintainers can comment.
Yeah, I just spoke to Pritesh and Nia, so they should be commenting on it today.
Okay, thanks. David, please.
Yeah, I was just going to proffer a third option, and that is we could, along the lines of Justin Cormack stepping down and getting a replacement sooner, we could withdraw the nomination for James and proffer a nomination for Johnny Stoughton, who is currently a maintainer of the Notary CLI. If that would be more acceptable to the group.
Yeah, so you mean you have another option to nominate I didn't remember the name. The one from the Notary CLI repository, right?
Yes, Johnny Stoughton. I can get you his GitHub already. Or his GitHub ID.
Yeah, Toddy, you have your hands up, please.
Sorry, I'm muted. David, I'm not sure that kind of from governance point of view that is better, because even Johnny doesn't have contributions based on the current governance guidance. So I don't think that will make a big difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Toddy. Yeah, David, do you have any further questions?
Nope.
Thanks. So back to the org maintainers. So what we are going to do that we expect that Justin can file issue to step down. If he does not do that in by end of this month, I will create an issue accordingly. And Wani and Pradesh will work on a nomination from AWS side, and from Microsoft side, Feynman will also work on nomination issue. And also Wani and Nias will comment on the nomination for the James. That's the issue that David created. These are the things that we need to work on. Okay, that's for the org maintainer status follow-up and the next steps. Yeah, hopefully we can have these issues created and nomination filed this week.
I'll follow up on these things, and I'll update offline. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Vani.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, then we move on to the next topic. Some follow-up items for notation 101 release. Feynman, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. May I share my screen, since there might be a few things that I will need to jump into the details?
Yeah, sure. You have 2 topics. I will stop sharing. Please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Now I'm sharing my screen and hanging out on the browser. Is that correct? And anyone can see it?
Yeah, I'm currently seeing the agenda.
Yeah. So the first thing that we released version 1.1.0, the minor release of notation last Thursday, right? Really appreciate all of the maintainers and contributors who contributed to this minor release. And this release, we delivered the plugin lifecycle management in the minor release. So although we cut the release in the community, but there are still a lot of things that we need to follow up and complete it after the release immediately. So I list some necessary items that we will need to collaborate and follow up in the community. The first thing is to cut a release for Notary project specifications, because we had a PR to update the plugin management conventions. This will require other maintainers to help review that PR and align on the conventions. I think some of the maintainers already did the first round of review, so I resolved some of the comments, and next Pritesh and Vani and some folks from AWS and Docker side, I think we will need your take a look at this PR. This was actually define the conventions of how a plugin vendor to package and distribute the plugin. And only a few changes made to the plugin mechanism section. So Pritesh, would you, and Vani, would you mind prioritizing this PR review, because we will rely on.
Yes, I got it on my notes. Yeah.
Okay. I will not go into the details, because we still have other items to share and sync up. So I will mark it as a review required, and folks, please help to ensure you have reviewed and get alignment on this spec change. Later, I think we will need to determine the version strategy for the specifications repos, because we only have a few minor changes to the plugin specifications. We will need to choose whether we will cut a minor release for specifications, or this should be a patch release. I will create an issue to gather comments and opinions from the community. Any questions regarding this PR?
Thank you. No. Yeah.
If not, I will continue to create an issue and wait for reviews from Vani and Pritesh and other maintainers. After this PR was resolved and the merged, we will be able to cut a new release, then determine if this should be a patch or minor release. Let's finalize the PR first. Thanks. Another 4 things are just information sharing. As you know, we have onboarded Notation CLI to different package managers, such as Homebrew for Linux Brew and Mac OS installation, and WinGet for Windows installation. So these 2 package managers has been updated to 1.1 this week. WinGet is still in progress and is still reviewing by the WinGet maintainers, and Homebrew is already done. So I think we will update the installation guide to include these 2 installation methods after these 2 installation methods are completed. And as you know, we also delivered the Notation GitHub Actions and onboarded to the GitHub Marketplace last year. So I think currently we are working on the upgrading Notation GitHub Actions to 1.1. This is still work in progress, and Patrick is working on it. Please, Patrick, I saw your hands up.
Thanks, Freeman. Should it be a patch release? Because the GitHub Actions itself does not have new feature in this release. By patch release, I mean, should it be 1.0.1 instead of 1.1.0?
You mean the versioning of
The version,
GitHub
yes.
Actions?
Yeah.
This is
can you go to the issue tab? Yes, yes, that one, the issue 52. Yeah. So scrolling down to the button, yes. So basically, Patrick has done the update by the PR 53, and we need to publish a release that version 1.0.1 for this GitHub action to enable the notation 1.1.0. Yeah. I know the version in the meeting notes is ambiguous, so maybe Patrick misunderstood that version is not the GitHub Action version, but the notation version.
So for GitHub Actions, that will be a patch release, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Shui, this is also the question that I want to double confirm in the community. So the first release of GitHub Actions started with v1.1, which is aligned with the notation versioning strategy, right? So I'm thinking, should we keep the GitHub Actions versioning strategy consistent with notation CLI or not?
Probably not, because we are following this schematic versioning. If we don't have any features for the GitHub action, we should not bump up the minor version. The same thing should apply to notation Go and notation code Go, and so as other repositories.
Okay, I don't have any additional comments on it.
Do others have any comments or questions?
If not, I think we can move on. I think the next step is to release a v1.0.1, a patch release for notation GitHub Actions. Okay, let's move on. So another 2 things related to blog post for the release announcement and documentation for all of the new features. The blog post I will start working on the blog post this week until all of the items completed this week, and especially the versioning strategy of the Notary project website and documentation are aligned in the community. Then I will be able to take the blog post as well as related documentations for the new features. So if you think there are anything else that we missed in our checklist, in our follow-up items, please let us know. If not, I think we can move on and discuss the versioning strategy of Notary project website and documentation. Okay, so as you may know that Notary project website was refactored and updated last year, and now all of the content will only be directed to notaryproject.dev. Currently, we don't have versioning strategy or version control in the website and also in the documentation repository. So this is a hard thing for us to make sure all of the links will not be changed or broken by using the current strategy. But after that, we find there are some broken links happened in external reference. So that means we will need a versioned website as well as the documentation to ensure the links will not be changed or broken in the future. So I started investigating some of the CNCF open source projects like Kubeflow, Kubernetes, and see their website and documentation versioning strategy. Here I want to propose the versioning control strategy for Notary project website and documentation. You can find this proposal about the agenda link. I can also post it in our chat so you can open some links on your site. So briefly speaking, the versioning strategy will follow these conventions. The first convention is to apply the version control to documentation and other pages like blogs, communities, and other top-level pages under notaryproject.dev will still keep the notaryproject.dev and its top-level domain. We will not have any version control on other pages, but only apply to the documentation. And we will provide a drop-down list to switch the versions of the docs. The second point is that the documentation versioning will align with the notation CLI version because most of the documentation content are related to notation CLI. And the Notary project, it as a generic brand and also an organization. It doesn't have its own versioning strategy. So maybe we can adopt the versioning strategy of notation CLI and keep it the same as notation CLI. If you want to check the content of docs, we can jump to the docs page. And currently, most of the content are related to CLI usage. Other links, other pages related to specifications, libraries will point to their own repositories or SDK documentation. Those content are not maintained on the website. So my proposal is to my proposal is to align the notation CLI version with the documentation versioning strategy. Any questions around these two proposals? Please, Yi.
Yeah. So for the second one, it means that so currently we have notation 1.0 release, right? This sorry, the latest 1.1 release. So we will have a drop-down list. So that list we will have a version like 1.1 and 1.0 and also latest. So if user switch to the 1.1, it will be the documentations related to notation CLI 1.1 release, right? Will be consistent with, I mean, the content in the documentation, for example, some how-to guidelines using notation CLI will be the same as the notation CLI 1.1. And if users switch to 1.0, the behavior will be aligned to notation 1.0, right?
That's correct. And I configured an example, a subdomain for v1.1. Give me seconds.
Yeah, I also saw David hands his head up.
Okay, I will finish the answer for E, and then I will let David to ask. So for example, we will configure a subdomain for v1-1 and as a subdomain for the v1.1 documentation. So if users click on docs, this page will only show the content of v1.1. And other pages like blog, security, community, all of the sub-pages on the Notary project website will point to the latest, will point to the unversioned links. For example, if users click on blogs, it will jump to the blogs. Does this answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
David, please.
Yeah, is there a reason not to separate out the documentation for notation into its own site that's versioned separate and maintained separately from other versioned things and other unversioned things? It just seems, is notation the only thing that's going to have a version in these docs? What about the specs and those sorts of things? Seems confusing to me if you have everything keyed off the version of notation. If there are other things that are released as versions, it's going to be weird to have, oh, notation version 1.2.1 contains, this spec, version 3.2.4, and this tool's version 0.1.7 and so on. Like you point to Kubernetes here, for example, and they don't have their blog on their documentation site. Their documentation site is their documentation site, and the blog is separate.
So David, your question is asked why we only have the versioning strategy, the version control on the Notary project documentation.
No, why is it tied to a is the Notary project just notation such that it like the Kubernetes has a single version, right?
Correct.
Is notation the only version that's relevant for the Notary project?
I understood.
Well, why isn't there a notation.dev instead of a Notary project.dev?
Yeah. As you know, Notary project has a lot of sub projects, right? Notation
Right.
CLI, notation Go libraries, Go, and a lot of libraries and also specifications repository under this organization. We don't find a valid strategy to versioning the Notary project itself because it had a lot of things. But we find currently most of the content under the website on the website are related to notation CLI usage. We also have links to specifications, but those content are maintained in their own repositories. For example, the specifications, it would point to the specification repo. That means, and also the specifications repo has its own versioning strategy, and it is not tightly aligned with the notation CLI or library versioning. So we can only adopt one versioning strategy for the documentation, and that is the reason that we adopt notation, because most of the content are related to notation CLI. And even now,
Right.
the libraries.
What I'm trying to express is that seems like a bad decision. If you have 10 different things that have versions that are all referenced from this, and you're tying them all to a specific version of one of them, it seems odd. Like in the Kubernetes example that you point to, when Kubernetes makes a release, it makes a release of the whole system. And that's what you're getting the documentation for. It's APIs, it's CLI, it's administrative interface, it's resource model, data model. And so, I would expect if I'm getting documentation for version 1.1.0 of the notation CLI, that why would we not have it at notation.dev instead of notary project.dev? Where do we put the documentation for our library, for example, the Go libraries? Where does that live?
Yeah, for Go libraries, all of the library content are maintained on a Go doc website. It is not maintained on the Notary project website, but we point the links to Go doc. And for Kubernetes, I think
where do we put the documentation for the Notary CLI?
You mean the original Notary
Yes,
project?
the Notary CLI.
If you mean the original Notary repositories, right? The content trust.
Yeah.
Those content are maintained in the Notary repositories, and I don't see there are active updates and maintenance in that repo. But we direct the content from Notary project website to the Notary to the original Notary repository.
Sajay has his hands raised, so.
Yeah, Sajid, please.
Yeah, no, I've been following the conversation. I didn't fully get it. I think there was a long discussion on how to do system release and how to do specific library release and how to do CLI documentation. We agreed, I remember, that after the 1.0 of notation, we would revisit this, right? And have a bunch of issues to track where each one of these docs need to go. Has that discussion already happened, or is this that discussion is what I'm trying to understand? Because I understand where if I want to find out how to use notation 1.0, where do I go? I think we need to answer that question. And for the Go SDK and Go docs, I think we already publish it to the respective Golang package stores. But for notation CLI, what's the docs? And for Notary system release, what's the docs? I think those questions are still not answered.
I think this is related question. The system release and the separate release for each sub-project. And we will rely on the answer of that question to define our version strategy of the website as well as the documentation. Toddy, please.
Yeah, I want to second what Sajay said, that we had this conversation like back in, I think, July last year, and we said that we'll revisit it. So we do have a plan for the, let's say, the libraries releases. Like those are going to the Go documentation site, and that's fine. David, though, has a good point, because we have other things under Notary project which are not libraries and not CLI. I like, so the old Notary repository, that is one point, but going forward, I also see kind of two things that are coming up. Like, for example, documentations of code that we release that is not notation. So notation is one, but we have GitHub Action. That is second one. The third one is the new repository that, for example, we created for plugins. We have also the actual plugins there, like the HashiCorp, as well as the other thing which is not code, which is the specification. So for the specification, we do also have some plan, because we actually link the specification from the documentation and the respective version. And there is no one-to-one mapping between the specification version and the notation version. David, you are correct. That kind of creates some confusion. Unfortunately, we also need to kind of think of how currently the documentation is laid out, right? And whether we can have all this kind of flexibility on switching, let's say, between, I want to see the version of this project and its own documentation. It is, I believe, doable. It is a question of how much effort we want to put, especially at this point of time in this. But as I said, so you have a good point, actually, and I remember we discussed that back in July, and also I discussed this with Feynman recently when he was working on this proposal. I don't know, that does not answer the question how we do it. The question is, do we spend now time to design kind of a better approach, or do we take the proposal that Feynman has, and somewhere in the documentation we clearly list at the beginning and saying this is right now version based on the CLI for this and this and this project, go look somewhere else.
Thanks, Toddy. I think now I understood the confusion from David. I agree with David that Notary project itself doesn't have a system release like Kubernetes. So that's the reason that we want to choose a major reference, versioning reference from the Notary project, from a major sub-project of Notary project as a reference on the website documentation versioning. The fact is that most of the sub-project on the Notary project organization has its own respective or separate versioning strategy. So it is a little bit hard for us to determine which versioning strategy that we want to follow with which sub-project. At this moment, I find the content of Notary project documentation are related to CLI usage. So that was the reason that I proposed we align the versioning strategy with the CLI. But I'm still open to that. If you have any good proposals, I'm happy to hear and apply to our strategy. I think Kubernetes did well because it has a consistent versioning strategy by using its API version as the versioning strategy for its website, and it doesn't adopt the versioning strategy of kubectl or kubeadmin. It uses its API version as the reference to versioning their website and their documentation content. Because it is an API driven project and all things are following the API conventions. By the way, we are following the strategy of Kubeflow, another CNCF project. Kubeflow is most of the strategies are inspired by Kubeflow website and documentation versioning strategy. If you click on the Kubeflow, and go to their website, they will have the similar versioning strategy as us. If we click on other pages like blogs, you'll find only documentation has its own versioning strategy. Other pages will not have versioning on their website. But I'm not sure how does workflow handle the versioning for different sub-projects. Pritesh and Vani, any questions or good ideas for the versioning strategy? And also Shui and anyone else, if you have any good ideas or you are second with this proposal, please let me know.
Sorry, I was
Hi-
busy with something
yeah.
else. Can I review it offline and provide comments by tomorrow end of the day?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Please.
Yeah, I want to say that maybe we can give some time for the committee to review this and have a proposal. So the current thing is that from the website, as we just discussed, we have many sub projects and they have different versioning control. And if user go to the website, they want to find some document, for example, for a certain version of CLI, currently they cannot do that because it is always the latest. So some things in the document will be wrong for certain version. So that's the reason that we need to have a kind of version for version control for the user guides, how to's on the website. But there are other things, as Feynman explained, that they don't have version control, like blogs, and also some other sub-project documents. As Toddy suggested, we can maybe on a page that describe how user can find the related document for different sub-projects. And for the website, what's the meaning of this versioning? So this is as a proposal, I understand now, and I think other maintainers can comment on this issue. And David, if you have some good proposal, you can also comment on this issue. So I would suggest that we give some time for maintainers to comment, and we can conclude it later.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And the versioning strategy for the website and also the documentation is very, very important and critical for us to move to the next step, because all of the content for notation V1.1 and other projects, we need to we rely on this versioning strategy, and we will need to provide version control to the website before the content updates. So maintainers, please help to give some time and take care of this proposal.
Yeah, maybe I think maybe we can on Thursday meeting we can follow up whether any issues, any comments or suggestions on this. We have 10 minutes. Let's continue. Let me share the screen again. We still have two topics. So Pradesh, do you want to take this release proposal?
Sure,
Version
I
one.
think I opened that issue. Can you please open that link? Yeah. So basically, I have almost completed the work with restructuring the common code from Notation Go and moving it to a separate package which can be used to create new plugins with minimal code. Like the implementation of plugin won't need to write the boilerplate code of passing arguments, getting a CLI. Also, at the same time, it encourages best practice, which allows plugins to be used as library and CLI both. So I did all the tests and end-to-end tests, unit tests, and the coverage is above 80%. I was planning to release this this week. Does anyone has any objections against that?
So your ask is that you have this vote opened. You expect the maintainers to vote for this V1 release, right?
That's correct, yes. And I will correct the typo there. Yep. That's the ask. If nobody has objection, then I will share the link with the maintainers on the Slack channel, community Slack channel. And please vote on that issue.
Hey, Pritesh, I just want to double confirm. Because this is a major release for framework for a library, right? Is the SDK documentation sufficient for this library on the Go doc documentation?
Yes and no. I have added some examples there which should help, but yes, it's not adequate.
Okay, so just kind of reminder, if you think all of the documentation are ready, you can add a link to the website and point it to this framework, and make sure all of the necessary examples are ready on the SDK doc, on the Go doc.
So on GoDoc, I have all the examples there because I added enough comments as a part of the code. But yes, the usability perspective, how to consume and generate binaries, that like yes, we need to add some more documentation on that side. But apart from GoDoc, there's enough GoDoc documentation there. And probably I think we update the website after the release, right? So once I have done the release, I can in parallel work on updating the website on how to use it and things like that.
Yeah, please. Thanks, Pritesh.
Mhm. Do that.
Yeah, maybe we can create an issue to track this document work.
Yep, we'll do that.
And I noticed there's a label, a bug label with this tagging issue. Maybe we can remove
Okay.
that bug. This is not
Yeah,
a
so
bug.
basically the issues doesn't allow you to open generic issues. I have to open a bug issue and remove everything from there. I will do that. I will make that fix. Done. Well, then I will share the link on this in the Slack group. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pritesh, and please, maintainer for this repository, take a look at this vote. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. The last item is the plan for 1.2. Yeah, this issue. So this is the proposal, and I ask for review from the Node project community as we released the notation 1.10, right? And 1.2 is basically 2 months cadence because we have some delay on 1.1 release. So originally we planned that the 1.1 release should be released early so that in 3 months we have another minor release as the cadency. So with this proposal, the target date is still March, basically end of March 2024. And the scope is 3 major features. One is sign and verify arbitrary data. This is was originally planned for 1.1, but we couldn't complete it in time, so it will be in 1.2. Another major feature or enhancement is related to the CLI error messaging improvements, and the link I put here is related to the guideline. So after we align with the guideline, Feynman will also create respective issues for different CLI commands. So for those issues, we can add it over time after the guideline was merged. Then we will have the support timestamping this feature. This is very critical feature so that user can verify the images that signed before certificate expiry, for example. So these are the 3 major features enhancements planned for the 1.2 that I proposed. And we also needed to have a minor release for the specification related to these features. So that's the scope I proposed, and also an estimated target date for 1.2 release. So we only have 2 minutes. So I also ask maintainers, org maintainers to review this proposal and comment on this issue. Okay, that's the ask for this topic. So let me check. I think Rakesh did not join. So maybe Wani, you can also check with Rakesh on the feature that sign and verify up-to data. I think he owns the specification work and also the specification not only in the CLI but also in the Notary project specification.
Sure, sure.
So
The
he's working on it. I think
741,
he's
right?
waiting.
Sorry? Pradesh.
Please go ahead, Vani.
Pritesh, are you saying something?
Sure, yeah. So I was saying Rakesh has raised the PR and they are waiting to be reviewed. So Shiva, Patrick, or anyone else who wants, can anyone like please review those PRs? And I think he's actively incorporating the comments.
Yeah, if you are referring to the CI spec PR, right? I think we are reviewing it.
Yep. So I think they're on track for next release. Yep.
Yeah,
And
I
in
think
parallel, I'm starting the implementation.
yeah, the specification not only in the CLI but also in the specification. I suggest that we complete the specification first, then we will review the implementation. Is that okay? So otherwise there will
That
be
works for
some
me. Yep.
some changes for the specification. Then the implementation needed to be changed accordingly. So we will review the specification first, then the implementation. Yeah. Okay, so that's the proposal for 1.2. Please comment on the issue. I think we can give 1 week. We can revisit it next Monday to see whether we are aligned on the plan. Okay, we just on time now. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you.
Nice day, nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.